Ashley Jones. I'm with the Client Success Department here at Parting Pro. Also a licensed funeral director and embalmer, and was in the funeral home for about 12 years prior to joining Parting Pro. So I managed a high volume cremation focused business out in Portland, Oregon, where we had multiple locations, and we used Parting Pro at that business. And that's how I got to know the team here and eventually made the transition over. So I'm happy to be here. Hopefully I can answer questions that you have and be a resource for you. That's really our goal here on the client success team, is to really just be a resource for you, help you get things up and running as best as possible for your business. So I'll let Andrea introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Andrea. A lot of you guys I have definitely spoke to, and so it's great to see some faces. I also am coming from the funeral background, dealt with families, and also did marketing in the funeral industry for several years. And I've been working with Parting Pro for a few years now in the client success team. So feel free to reach out anytime to me. Feel free to pick my brain. I talk to funeral directors all day, every day. So I kind of try to keep my ear to the ground, what's going on with the industry, all that good stuff. So I'll be sure to pass on any info that I have.
Thank you. Well, we'll just jump in here. So we've got our agenda today. So we've kind of gone over a welcome here. What we generally do on our AMAs is we'll just highlight a feature just to make sure everybody knows it's available and show you how it works. And then we'll go over just a pro tip, so something that can help you with efficiency. And then we get into submitted questions, and then we have your open questions too. So thank you for those that have already been using the chat. Love to see that, and hello to everybody. To get started here, the feature review today is going to be our invoice templates. So we, offer templates for a lot of things, a lot of emails that go out to families you can adjust templates on, but you can also have templates for your invoices. So this can be especially helpful if you're doing a lot of manual invoicing. You can create templates that are going to have all of those invoice items already populated for you. So instead of having to generate an invoice and add multiple line items every single time, you can just choose your template, which has those line items on it. So this can be found within your payments tab. You're going to be under the invoices section, so where you're used to managing your invoices, and then you've got this button that says manage templates. So when you choose to manage those templates, you'll come in and be able to add additional templates here. So you can have as many templates as you need, but just clicking add new will let you build out those templates. So as an example here, I've got my direct cremation package template, which I'm just going to be able to choose and have all of my included items in that package. I've also got an expedited cremation template. So if I'm doing expedited services and I need to manually invoice that, I can just choose that template and it's going to have those included items. It can also be helpful if you have some special discounted packages that you're doing. So things like veteran packages or hospice discounted packages, which maybe you're not doing all of the time, but having all of those line items populated for you is just going to be a time saver for you. And I can also show you how to create those templates really quick. So let me move over to my other screen here and get that going.
And just as while Ashley's doing that, I just wanted to point out you guys can have invoices for packages that you're not necessarily offering in your online store. I do have a lot of clients who find themselves doing a lot of traditional burial packages, and they want to invoice that through the system. You can have a template that is related to a traditional burial or graveside burial, even if that's not a package that you're offering in the store, because again, you can still have someone who is out of state who wants to pay for an arrangement. So a lot of our customers do have all of the templates sitting there for every type of package that their business offers, regardless of what's in the store. So definitely keep in mind, that in mind, because that can really come in handy. So you're not having to create some elaborate burial invoice or something like that on the fly. You can have it sitting in here ahead of time.
For sure. That's a really great point. Thank you for mentioning
Mhm.
that. So I'm just in a case, and on the payments tab, I'm going to scroll down into my invoices section and choose manage templates. When I choose manage templates, I'll be able to edit an existing template if I wanted to. So if I've changed my GPL, something in my package changed, I can come in here and actually edit an existing template. And you'll see that this looks just like when you're doing an invoice. You can add line items, you can change quantities, you can delete items. So if I needed to add a line item to this template, I would go ahead and just choose whatever it is that I needed to add here. So we'll say a death certificate mailing fee. Maybe that's going to be something included in my template. I'll save that template and it's now updated that. And you'll always see the name of your template here, as well as the line items that are included here. So you can have an idea without having to click into each one what's there. But to build a completely new one, all you'll do is click add new. You'll be able to add a name. So if it was going to be your traditional burial package, this would be your traditional burial package. And then you can just begin to add line items. So like Andrea was saying, if you did want your traditional burial package here for that family that you needed to, send an invoice to, you can add things even that aren't in your system. So if you wanted to add, I'll just say graveside service or something along those lines, even if it's not in your catalog, you can still add that here. Put in your additional information, your pricing, and continue to build out that package as needed. So instead of, again, having to do this for every family that comes in and you need to invoice, you're going to get it done a lot quicker here. So you can add as many items here. So if there's 10 items included in that package, you would go ahead and just add all 10 of those things. Let me see. I'll just add a couple things here as an example, and then save that template. And then let me show you how to use it. So I'm going to go back to the case now that we've created a template. And then now that I want to create a new invoice, I'm going to click new invoice. So this is giving me a from scratch invoice here. And then I've got this template button here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that direct cremation package that we built, and it's going to populate all of those items for me. Now you can still edit it, so you're not locked into the template. So if you needed to add additional line items, you can. If you need to change, the amount of death certificates, you can, but at least it's giving you that base of information that you don't have to continue to retype each time.
And then Ashley, can you show real quick? Because Darren has a question about having an address in an invoice. Right now, we don't have a way of capturing that address if they don't know it at the time that they're creating. But if you could emphasize the section where they can put notes that families can see.
Sure. So we're talking about the address of the informant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So when I go to the next section and I want to be able to send this invoice out, you can select the person that you're sending it to. And at this point, and Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not understanding the question, but if I have Fred Flintstone's address in my system, so we're not talking about they've gone through the online checkout. I actually have Fred Flintstone and I have his address in the system. Now, this is going to show up on your statement of funeral goods and services.
Yes, this
Okay.
is for if they are sending an invoice to a payee and they don't have their address. There either is an option of right now we just have if they have the address, it can be further emphasized in the note section. But I was just wanting to emphasize that we don't have a way of having it where the
Sure.
family on their side
The address.
can actually input the address. But I
Gotcha.
will mention that to development
Sure.
because he's saying sometimes they're sending the invoice to someone and they don't have the address, but they would like to have an option while that person is paying to also have it collect that address.
Gotcha. Okay. Sure. Um, And then the note section, you do have a note section for each invoice, which you can have a template for as well. So if you wanted to send a note with all of your invoices, that's an option too. You can type in that note. Maybe this would be, you know, something along payment terms, but I'll show you what this is going to look like just so you can see what that looks like. And then it will be available for the family there. Let me actually put in a different address.
Yeah, some good ideas for notes and invoicing. If some of our clients have, if you have the loved one in your care for 72 hours, a hold fee applies, etc., things like that. So you can have it as a further safety net if you have a family that's deciding to stall on payment. Any of those type of additional fees that can go into play will be there.
So I'm just going to open up the invoice so we can see that note that I just put. So you'll be able to see what it looks like for the family. So I've just gone into the email that they get where they can choose view invoice. And then when they scroll down here, they're going to be able to see your note. Here.
It does look like it is asking for their address though.
This is their billing.
Oh, it's the billing address. Oh, okay. All right. That doesn't help.
Yeah. So when somebody's
Okay.
going to pay for their services here, they are going to put in their billing information.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually show on the invoice itself
right.
when it's paid. Yeah. So we'll talk to
However,
development about that.
oh yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you. However, we are working with our development team right now on solving this problem, on being able to potentially have the family put in the address and have some updates coming. It's probably going to be a few months before those are done, but we do recognize that's a loophole. But yes, our development team is on that and working to get that fixed. So stay tuned.
And did everyone see where those notes were showing?
Oh, sorry, let me go back in case they didn't. It's in this invoice details section right here. So it would show up, like Andrea said, if you've got, you know, holding fees after 72 hours or something like that, they would see that note. Perfect. Any other questions on that invoice template, invoicing subject? Okay. The other thing I was going to go over today is just a pro tip on using the checkboxes to autofill your contacts. So let me just move over to the dashboard and show you what that means too. So when we go into our case details, we've got the ability that if you've got one person, let's say, that is multiple roles, you have the option when you've entered a first caller to choose that they're also the informant. You also have that when you're saying my informant is a next of kin and my authorizing agent is also my informant, so that you don't have to enter this information 3 separate times. So I'll show you what that looked like. So if my first caller happens to be a family member, I can go ahead and enter in this information. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose a relationship here. So if this is in fact, you know, a family member, my browser's being slow on me real quick today. So let me get this entered. Tab through that. There we go. And then we'll choose a relationship. And so maybe I've got all the information I need for this person. And I'm going to say they're also my informant. Let my computer catch up here. We'll say is also informant. I'm going to get a message confirming is also the informant is going to overwrite anything that you have in the existing informant section. We're going to confirm that, yes, we want to say this is the same as the informant. So that has auto-filled now this informant information for me, so I don't have to retype anything. Now, if this is also my next of kin, I'm going to go ahead and check this box as well that says is next of kin. As I continue to move down, I've also got an authorizing agent section. So if in fact they are my next of kin, or excuse my authorizing agent, I'm also going to say is my authorizing agent. Now I'm going to get a similar message that says you're going to overwrite everything you already have here. If you want to cancel that, you can. But if it is the same person and you want to confirm that, then my information for that informant is also going to autofill in here. So instead of having to enter the same information 3 times, I went ahead and used those checkboxes to do that for me. And then I'm also going to move down into my next of kin area, which is going to be connected to this question here. Is this informant a next of kin? So when I come down into my next of kin area, that Frank Flintstone has already filled in as my next of kin. The last checkbox that you have is this primary next of kin section. This is going to be used when you've got multiple recipients, multiple people in the family that you're talking to. Having the primary next of kin designation is going to be very helpful when you go to send those forms, especially if you're sending to multiple people. Your primary next of kin is going to be the person who's going to answer all of the questions on the forms, where the second, third, and fourth people that you're sending those forms to are going to be able to sign, but they can't fill anything out on the forms. Kind of like your vitals. You're going to send that to one primary person who's going to answer those questions for you. And that's what that primary next of kin designation is. Any questions on that? Or Andrea, did you have anything else to add there?
Nope, that sounds great. What you said, how you explained it, it's perfect.
Okay. And yes, Fred Flintstone is my character of choice when it comes to the dashboard. So I can't remember his mom's name, but I guess you're right, Darren. It is probably Edna.
And just one more thing. This is for if you are coming back into the case details, wanting to round out information. When you are first creating a case, you only need to put the name and the email underneath the informant section. Okay. So don't get intimidated if you're creating a case and you're seeing all this information to fill in. It doesn't need all of that to allow you to create a case. You just need a name and an email address. And I like to put it under the informant section so that I don't have to reconfirm my email when I'm sending my invite.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of think of your case details as your like arrangement folder. You know, we've got those like nice manila folders that we fill out with all the decedent's information on it. This is your digital version of that. So you can put as much or as little information as you have at any time and just always come back to them. Okay, let's get into some more questions here. So we're going to go over submitted questions first. So one of the questions we got is when there are multiple signers on a document, if there was one signer, if one signer completes the document, is there a way to delete the other signer or to change their email address? There is a way to change their email address if you need to. There's not a way to delete a signer from a document. So if you have sent a document to multiple signers and you've got one that is, and you don't have a second yet, that's going to be an incomplete document until that second person signs. So if in fact you don't need the second person's address, I think you would need to resend that form. But there is a way to change the email address. So let me show you that. So I'm going to quickly come into my case details, kind of like we were just talking about with my next of kin here. And I'm just going to add an additional next of kin so I can show you what this looks like. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to my case and send a form. Say I might actually have one here. Let's see. Actually, that's not going to do it, but there is a way to change the email if you need to. So if I click send or print, if you accidentally if it's not a correct email address, you'll get an error that it bounced, is I think what the notification says in the dashboard. And it will give you the option to update that email address. And if you're not familiar with what I'm doing, I'm sending a form to multiple people. So my first and primary person is who I've selected first. This is that primary recipient who's going to fill in the majority of the form. Again, how I just talked about a moment ago, and having that one person who's going to do the most of the things. And the second people will be just signing. So you can add as many recipients as you need by just choosing add recipient. You'll choose them from your drop-down menu here, and then hitting next. When you go into your forms, you'll then see the forms that are available for multiple recipients. So I have, under this release of custody certificate, it says a maximum of 3 recipients. That's the form I'm going to choose, and then I'm just going to choose who I'm sending it to. So if I want to send to both family members, I'm going to say select all. And then this one also has a funeral director signature, and that's set to me right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit next and go ahead and send this out. And then I'm going to have that form that I just sent, so release of custody, to Susan. And then I've got it sent to Frank as well. Both, you're going to see it as 2 separate forms here because it's tracking who you've sent it to, but it is in fact one form. And then I believe that you can come in here and edit this or resend. Let me see if I click resend, if it gives me that option. So I'm sorry, I'm thinking of when the email bounced, you can edit the email address. Andre, am I thinking about that right? But you can't edit the email address once you've sent it.
Bounces, it will give
Mhm.
you a space to change the email. That's
Okay,
different than just removing a
just
sender. I
removing.
think
Yeah,
what they were asking is if they just change their mind and no
yeah.
longer want that sender, it's correct.
Mhm.
You have
You
to
have to
resend a new
resend.
document. If
Yeah.
you actually have an error with an email, it'll give
Mhm.
you an option to change it. It should kind of show up down there.
Yeah.
But since there wasn't
Those
an issue, you
bounce.
don't see the box there. So
Yeah.
they weren't exactly clear. So
Mhm.
if you
Yeah.
just want to remove a person, no, you cannot do that. You need to send a
Right.
whole new form. If you sent it and one of the emails is wrong and it bounced back, you do not have to send a new form. The system will give you a space where you can easily, it's got a big red exclamation mark. You can't miss it. And you will be able to adjust to the correct email.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, and the other question is, if we delete a user, what happens to the cases assigned to them? Will there be a record that the person was the person assigned to the case, even if they're no longer a user? So what this
Ashley,
question,
real quick,
yeah,
can I interrupt you?
oh, for sure.
Um, Victor wants to know where we would go to disable reminders
Yeah,
once an email was
absolutely.
sent.
Let me show you this. So, um, for example, in this one that I just sent, it's telling me reminders are disabled, but you've got in your actions menu here, I can either turn it back on. So I can say, actually, I want to enable reminders on this, even though I chose initially to not. And then you can do the same thing to disable them. So you can choose to disable them. And then the status is always going to be showing in your form history on what that status is. For that. And then the other thing you have here is to resend that email. And then under your drop down menu here, when you open this up, you're going to see the reminders that have been sent. So you'll always have a record of each reminder that the family has gotten so that you can see when those are going out. And then you can edit the form or delete it here as well if you ever need to do that.
And pretty much every email that the system is sending out under that actions drop down, you do have the option to disable reminders. And then also underneath your settings in your templates, you have the ability to control if there's actual reminders that are going to go out with that particular email.
Yeah, let me just show you that really quick. So I'm just going to go up to where my name is and go into my menu. And then when I go into settings, if there are reminders emails set up, so let's look at our digital forms because that's what we were just looking at. So I'll say for my digital forms, I want to look at the @need email that's going out when I choose that. When I click the edit button, it's going to bring up the email itself, which I can edit here. And this is again going to edit the template. So it's going to be the base for every email that goes out. But when you scroll down, you'll see the reminder emails. So on the @need forms email, there is a reminder set to send every 8 hours up to 7 times. So you can add a reminder here. You can also edit the reminder here. So if instead of, for example, you wanted the email to be sent once a day instead of every 8 hours, you can just change that here. So I'm going to say I just want a reminder sent once a day for 7 days, or maybe I only want it 5 days. You can control all of that within your settings here of the emails. And then you can save those changes. But if you don't know also what your reminder emails say, you can take a look at those. And if there's anything that you want to edit in the actual reminders, you can change those as well.
Anyone have any other questions about controlling your reminders or anything like that? I know a lot of times people will say, gosh, you guys send so many emails. You guys have control over that. So definitely if you need help, like I said, feel free to contact. Victor's also asking, is there a best practice for timing for reminders for @need shoppers? I recommend you hit @need shoppers really heavy within the first 48 hours. If someone has actually had a passing, you've got a really short window to connect with that family. With imminent, it's a lot longer. I've seen people be able to secure imminent family 2 weeks later after they did an inquiry. @need, not the case. If they are not calling you back within 48 hours, it's very likely they have gone, unfortunately, with a competitor. So I feel like it is okay to be a bugaboo and really get in there and try to reach that @need family as much as possible. And a lot of times they appreciate that because they've got so much going on that sometimes getting a couple of emails within an 8-hour period kind of helped you stay at the top of their inbox and keep you in the forefront. Also, a lot of times your competitors are not doing that. So if you're in a heavy competition area, feel free to be what you may feel is obnoxious, but again, it does make a difference. I've got clients who do really heavy hitting in that first 8 hours, and they do get pretty decent volume. So people might complain about it, but it does actually work.
Yeah, and to add to that, just the default reminders right now for an @need, they're set to send once after 8 hours. So after you send the initial email, 8 hours later, that family will get a reminder. And then 2 days after you sent the initial email, they'll get another reminder. So that's the default there. They are very gentle reminders. So you can come in and look at these too, but just again, like I said, just a very gentle reminder. Nothing's pushy about this, but you're just reminding them that they can go ahead and continue the online process when they're ready here. And then the second reminder is set up to be very similar. So you've got just another, I think it's the same actually, another email where you're reminding them that they can go ahead and continue the process. And then once they make those online arrangements, those reminders automatically stop. So if an @need family goes in, makes arrangements immediately, they're never going to get a reminder to go to your online store. If you follow up with, other emails for forms and things, then those reminders will kick in after that. Any other questions about emails?
Yeah, I have one. Brad Apsey up in Michigan. I had a
Okay.
family in a while ago, and one of the sons was still using AOL for his email, and I couldn't get the cremation authorization to go through. He could email me back, and it'd show up on my email, but AOL wasn't working. Is that something you've run into also?
Gotcha.
Yes, unfortunately, AOL and Hotmail are no longer being serviced. So they take a very, very small email. So what it's doing is typically going to their spam. So the workaround that usually works is to go in and resend the email. Ashley, can you show on that actions tab how you can send a form and then go and click and hit resend email? usually going in and hitting send email will turn off that spam filter and it'll let it go into the person's inbox. So that's not something we can control. Microsoft has asked people to switch over to Outlook. So there is an option to hit resend. So if you're getting somebody who's got a AOL, we definitely know Hotmail, really old email addresses that are no longer being serviced by the provider, definitely go in and hit that action tab and hit resend after you send it. And normally that will make it go into the person's inbox. It's probably sitting in his spam.
Great question.
Yeah. And if you don't want to deal with that, a lot of times people do have the AOLs, but they also have a Gmail or they have a Yahoo. So if I see that, I usually try to ask them like, hey, do you have a Gmail? Do you have an Outlook or a Yahoo? And 9 times out of 10, they do. And then it just makes it easier all around. But if in the rare instance they don't have another one, the only option is to either hit resend email. Another thing you can do is send the email to yourself. So send the form to yourself and then forward that email over to his AOL.
That's a good idea too. Victor, I want to get to the first question you asked before I forget. You said, we love the notes feature, especially the timestamp and name of the person creating the note. Will this feature be available on the checklist at some point? So what Victor is referring to is the note section. So when you come in here and put a note, don't call the family until Friday, whatever we're going to say our note is, I'm going to add a note and that's going to timestamp this note for me. So it tells everybody that's using the system that I added that note and the date and time. So what Victor's asking is in the checklist, if we'll be able to have that as well. So let's go ahead and open this up. We are working on some upgrades for the checklist. So that will include eventually the ability to assign items as well as have due dates. So I think what you're asking, Victor, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you're adding something in here, will it tell you who put that information?
Yes, that's kind of what we're
Okay.
looking for.
Got it. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, so I was gonna say, I know it's updating. It will tell you who created it and even if your priorities change, but right now, not on who left the information in the note.
No, it doesn't, but hopefully they will.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Let me go back in here. So okay, that's what I was looking for. So yeah, again, it's going to tell me Ashley changed the status from to do to in progress on the date and time. So it's going to keep track of some of those things, but we'll definitely let our team know that knowing who left the text would also be something that you're looking to do. So hopefully that's something we can work into our updates when we are able to publish those for you.
You might have actually answered my question. So if if Ashley checked off that the removal was done, does it show that she did it? It
does. So it's going to be inside the task. So I just marked this one complete. And then it says I created the task. Let me refresh. I know it does in those subtasks. I just looked at it. It says I created the task. Let me go in here. When I go into the subtasks, it tells me to change the status from to do to in progress. But it doesn't look like it's doing that on the task itself. Let me hit save here. And then save.
I believe the reason why it's not doing it on the task, and I could be wrong, is because the subtasks are not completed.
Okay, let's test it.
I think.
Yeah,
No,
the subtask is still telling me created.
Oh, okay.
But the
So it's only a
subtasks are
subtask.
going to tell you that. Yeah. Let me ask our team about that. And if that was something that can be updated too. Oh, hang on. Ashley Jones changed the status from in progress to done.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, but that's still in the obtained first call.
It's still in the, it's still
Yeah.
in the subtask.
So yes,
though. It's
on
not showing it in the main
subtasks
task.
right now, but not on the overall tasks, if that makes sense. So not on the removal piece, but on each of these, it's going to tell you any changes, priority or completion statuses.
And who completed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, if we delete a user, what happens if there's cases assigned to them? So what this question is referring to is you have case managers and funeral directors. So that question is asking if, for example, one of these people no longer works for us, what's going to happen? So in that case, so we would go into our team settings. You have the ability in your team settings to deactivate or remove users. So in the case that you have some staff turnover and you need to remove somebody, you can delete. So I'm going to delete Monica from the system really quick and just remove her. She's going to show down here as a deactivated user. So I know who's been deactivated from my system, but it doesn't actually change. It doesn't remove her from any cases in my system. Her name still shows as that case manager because she was that case manager. She's just not going to be available for me to choose as a case manager going forward. So you're not going to lose any data if you remove somebody. You're always going to know that they were the funeral director or they were the case manager. They're just not going to be an option to choose as a case manager or funeral director going forward. Okay, and then let's go back to our questions here. So the next question was, I had a family order an urn on the site, and when we got it delivered, she does not want it. What's the procedure to, in this case, send it back and initiate a refund? So great question. That's absolutely possible. And the best way to do that is to reach out to our support team using the chat function within your dashboard. And just let our team know that the families changed their mind and they no longer want the urn. Our support
No,
team
this
will
is because
help
it's
you.
drop shipping, correct?
If it's drop shipping, yes.
Yeah, because her
Yeah.
question didn't say for sure.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry. Yeah. So if you're participating in our drop shipping program and you've ordered merchandise that we've shipped to you, thanks for clarifying, Andrea. I just jumped in with an assumption there. Then you can reach back out to our team, let them know that families change their mind. They'll get you set up, send you a return label, help you out with getting that returned so that you can get a refund for that item. There are some parameters there. I think it needs to be within 30 days, but our support team will help you get that sorted out and let you get that shipped back. Okay, and then is there a way that we can provide a photo upload link in the ID verification section where the family can send us a photo within the past 6 months for us to verify the ID of the decedent? Most of our families do not want to see their loved one. Okay, so let me go out of here for a second. And then let me show you, we'll do some context first. So this question is asking about our ID verification feature, which is found on our Forms tab. We have this ID verification where it will allow you to upload a photo of the decedent and send it to the family for them to verify the identification. Now, some states require that this is done, and this was initially why this was built. It was to help those customers in the states that had that requirement to go ahead and take a photo of the decedent, send it out to the family, and let them say, yes, I'm confirming this is my loved one. Now, what the question is asking is, can we send this and have the family upload a photo to send back to us? So that's not possible with this, but we can solve that another way. So instead of using the ID verification where you're going to be able to send a photo out, what we can do is put that in your vitals. So I've got this pulled up to show you here. So in our vitals web form, which the family fills out, if you wanted to ask for a photo of a decedent for them to send it to you, or we have funeral homes that use this too, if they want to have like a photo of the driver's license of the informant or the authorizing agent, whoever's signing these forms and providing your information. If you want information from them, this is a way we can do it. So within our questions here, when we're asking questions about the decedent, we can have an option here that says upload a photo of your loved one. And if you want it within 6 months, we can tell them that it should be within 6 months as well. But they'll be able to click in here and add a photograph of the loved one for you. And that's going to come through when they submit it into your case files so that you can have that. So that's the way that I would solve that. And if you did need the same thing for, you know, for the informant, we could do the same thing in here where we ask them to upload their driver's license. Those are both options for you. And if that's a change that you'd like to make, the best thing to do is just reach out to our support team using the chat function here, opening this up and sending us a message that you'd like to have a photo upload of the decedent added into your vitals web form, and we'll go ahead and get that done for you. You're on mute, Andrea.
Can you show in the actual case where those case files images would upload? Because I know
Yes.
sometimes people
Yeah,
have questions.
for sure. So again, I'm going to be within my forms tab. Any photos that get uploaded from the family are going to show up in this case files section. So you can also upload your own documents here. So if you like to keep all your documents in one place, so maybe you've got removal paperwork from the hospital, you want to keep that all in the electronic file, you can upload here. But if the family uploads any documents, it will also show up here for you. I think it's also going to show up in your case details though, that you've got something uploaded. And it will, so you'll have a little snippet of the upload within the section of your case details too. So you can see it there. Yeah. Any other questions about that? Okay. I think that was all of our submitted questions. So any other general questions?
No, if you could just emphasize the help desk.
Sure. Victor, I think you had a question maybe?
Yeah, I just had one. So one of the features that I really love about this is the email that gets sent out for, shoppers and imminent calls and things of that feature that, I've done probably 60 tests as I was demoing this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do so many, you kind of forget the sequence of things.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that every time we send out a price shopper email, that it gets added as a case on our dashboard. What is it that we have to click in order to make sure that that happens?
So actually, so let me show you. In fact, anytime you hit the new case button, whether you send an email or not, it's going to create a case in your dashboard. So even if I click the new case button here, and then I get distracted, I forget what I'm doing, I walk away, anything like that. As long as if I hit the case button at all, it's going to create a case for me. Now it's completely empty, but when I go back to my cases button, or excuse me, my cases page, I have this kind of empty case that I just created here. So it has this decedent name of NA because I didn't put a decedent name in. I didn't put an informant name in either, but it will absolutely create a case anytime you hit that create case button. And so if you haven't done anything and you need to go back to the case and you want to send an email now, you can go ahead and do that. You can do it right here, even if you don't want to go back into the case details at this point. I'm going to go ahead and enter that email there. And let's see. And
I think the best way is to, when you're
back.
creating that plus new case or add new case button, go to the informant tab
Yeah.
and put a name and an email. because if you put it under first call, it doesn't, it's going to still have it as in/A. So I always recommend hit that plus new case or add new case button, go under the informant section and make sure you're putting at least a first name and an email address. And on your actual dashboard, you will see a name and you will see an email, and it'll look like a fully created case. But Ashley is correct. It's going to create one regardless. It's just going to be empty and it's going to say in/A. But if you don't want it to be empty, always go to that informant section, put in at least a first name and at least an email, and you will see that on your dashboard looking like a traditionally entered case.
Yeah, and it will actually say NA still because we didn't get a decedent name because that NA is of the decedent, but you're gonna have the informant information.
Yeah.
So I'll show you what I mean. So my decedent name is still empty because I didn't enter one, but as I scroll over, I do have my informant information. So I know that this is the case that I just created for Frank Flintstone's family. And then they'll be there, and then you can go back to it at any point. And yeah, the best case scenario is that when you're creating the case, if you know you're sending a shopper email, to do it there. But you can come back and do it at any point if for some reason you forgot to send the shopper email, but the case was created.
Yeah, so if you want yours to look like a traditional case, Victor, put in a decedent name, put in the name of the first name of the informant and an email address. So we could just put, yeah, Fred Flintstone right there, and then it'll look like a traditional. Now, if they go through the online arranger and they actually input that information, the system will update it based on what they put in the online arranger. But if you want to do it ahead of time, just make sure you're getting that information from the shopper caller. I know it's hard. Sometimes they won't give the name of their loved one. So you just kind of have to wait till it gets updated when they go through the online store. But I like to usually ask, like, how do you spell the name of your loved one? Is my go-to, and they'll usually give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think you're on mute, Victor.
Sorry about that. I wasn't as concerned about whether the person's name populated or not. Versus I feel like you hit on the top, the top right, it says plus new case. Then you enter the info, you have to click the create case in order for it to happen. And I think that's where I was, I'm doing 1,000 different tests and I'm like, oh, all right, I have to actually, so it's plus create new case. Then after you create the new case, then you have to hit create case.
Yeah, so it will actually create the case regardless. So I just did exactly that. I'll hit new case. And then let's say I forgot to hit create case. If I don't enter anything here, or I enter some information and walk away, if I go back to my cases tab, I'm gonna have, I just did it twice. So I now have 2 cases that's showing here. Now they're both empty, but it did create that case for you so that you don't lose information if you had filled something out in there. Everything in the system is set to auto save for you. So even though we have these kind of save buttons or back to case buttons, those are save buttons, it's auto saving in the background for you for that purpose so that you don't lose information on accident. It's super frustrating to enter in a bunch of information and then have to re-enter it because you didn't hit save or back to case or that create case button. So it should still create those cases for you no matter what.
So I just did it, and I just hit create new case and I filled out nothing, refreshed my page and went back and it wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Huh.
What browser are you using, Victor? Are you on Chrome?
Yeah. Yeah, let me refresh the page too.
And you came back to your cases page like this?
Yep. I'm gonna try it one more time. So plus new case. And then the phone rang. I forgot what I was doing. And then I go
Darren brought up a good point. He said, do you have filters on?
Yeah. Do you have any filters in here?
Filters on your dashboard. Like maybe you have your filter set up where you're looking for like
only
case ID assigned, unassigned. I don't know if you have any filters checked.
No, I have. So all of my Oh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yep. So I have all of the filters checked. So
Yeah,
that's why
that's
they're
why.
not.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, then that explains it.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you,
Darren.
Darren.
Yeah.
So here it is. Here's my 1,000 cases that I created
Oh,
that.
Yeah,
shoot.
they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Those filters are handy, but they'll catch you every once in a while if you got them really specific.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
just you get so much stuff on the dashboard. You want to try to
Right. Yeah.
narrow it down a little bit. All
Mhm.
right. That's good. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you could
Oh,
just go over the help desk. So if
oh yes,
anyone
help
wants to
desk.
revisit
Yep.
anything,
Sure.
that'd be great.
So our help desk, you can find it in a couple places. So the little question mark up here, if you click on this, that's going to open up our help desk for you. This is broken up into sections. So if you're kind of browsing and you're trying to find information about a certain section, it might be helpful to click into things and kind of see what's available for you. We have lots of video tutorials in the help desk. So there's different sections where we've got step-by-step videos to learn different things within the dashboard. We've also got a search bar. So if you need to, let's see, split an invoice and you've never done that before, we'll see what will come up here. So splitting an invoice between multiple payers. If I open up that article, all the articles should have, screenshots that are pretty helpful to get through. Some of them will have videos. But if you still need assistance after that, our team is always here for you. When you open up the chat function in your dashboard, you're also going to see our help desk. So you can look at it either in your dashboard or in a separate window. Same help desk. And so then you can send us a message as well. But the help desk is really helpful. Should have a lot of good information in here that should answer most questions for you. Let's see, any other questions?
I've got one. Tom Wagner from Florida.
Hi, Tom.
Hi. My question has to do, maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but is there a way to go in and tell Parting Pro whenever I'm sending paperwork to a family or sending the email to a family that we already have the body in-house? Because there's been a few times here recently where people call me back and they're a little confused. They're like, are you sure you've got mom? Because you were supposed to go pick her up last night, but when you sent me the email, it's asking me where she's at.
So we're talking about the shopper email?
No, whenever I send them these, yeah, whenever, again, maybe this is where I'm doing things wrong. So I go and pick up someone in the night
Yeah.
at the nursing home. I call the
Okay.
family up and I say, would you like to come in and see us and do this, or do you want to do things via email? And of course,
Mhm.
they'll immediately jump and say, let's do it by email. So then
Okay.
I'll send them the introduction email and send them into the store so they can select
Okay.
our, make those
Okay.
choices. But when they do that, it's going to ask, is the body in our care yet? Where did the
It
body
does,
die?
right.
All
Yeah.
these things that I'm supposed to already know.
Mhm.
And even though it pre-populates the customer's name and the deceased name,
Mhm.
because I've already
Mhm.
input that, it doesn't populate those other things and then causes a little concern on their end.
Sure. So, okay, so yes, two things. You are right. If it's an at need, it is going to ask them, is your loved one already in our care? And then it's going to ask them, if so, where did your loved one pass? And that's really so you can collect mileage charges, right? So if this loved one is outside of your service area, that you're able to collect that information. So I was just going to get over to that spot.
Okay, my question then Ashley is, if I've already put that information into the case file,
Right.
then why can't it populate that already in there and figure that based on what I've already typed in?
And let's just do that test really quick, unless you know off the top of your head, Andrea.
No, it's so when they're going through the online store, you're sending the online store is not going to send any information back to the case details until after they're complete with that. So the main reason why it's asking that question is some of our customers, even though they have the loved one in the care, maybe they picked up the loved one from a hospital, a residence, and they want the system to charge a fee for that because they had to send two transport guys. So that's why it's asking that question. It wants to know, are there any fees associated with where this loved one was brought into the care? So when it says, is your loved one already into the care? The answer is yes. So the only option I can see is when you're sending out that email in your template, say, please note, we already have your loved one in our care. Your online store is going to ask if the loved one is, please check yes, and then reconfirm the pickup location. I would give them a heads up about that in the actual template, because we had customers who will go, well, it didn't charge the residential fee. So that's why we created that workaround, where even though you already have the loved one in the care, it's still going to have them confirm that. So I find out just giving them a little heads up on that on your email template. So you might want to tweak your @need email template with that instruction. I think that that might clear it up.
Okay, I think you missed one of my points, Andrea. I put that address information in the case information.
Yes, but the case
So-
details
so-
is not communicating with the online store yet.
Okay, well, that's
That's
my
the
point.
problem.
We need to make it
Yeah.
communicate with that, because I shouldn't have to have the customer go back and fill out all that information. It's information that they already know I have. And I'm telling them, now you got to tell me what hospital we got her at, or all of this, when we just got off the phone and I already have her. So
Okay.
it creates a little confusion on their part, like, why are you asking all this stuff whenever, are you sure you've got my mom?
Right,
And
Yeah,
we
I see
don't,
what
we
you
don't need to
mean.
ever create those
Yeah.
kind of concerns.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we'll have to talk to development about that and
Mhm.
find out if there's something they can do to advance that connection. Now, there is a situation too, just to throw it out there, if we are able to turn that on, if someone decides to go to your website instead of accessing through the invite you sent, it's just going to send a duplicate case and they're not going to get that communication. So we'll try to see if we can create a solution, because we agree that does not make sense for you to already have told the case details and then it not show. So I don't know how quick of a turn they can do on making that change, but I do know that if for some reason, I just got back from Chicago, cool the bean. So anyway, if there is a situation where they go through your website instead of accessing through the online store, you may still get phone calls. We're like, hey, didn't you already have my mom? And
Sure. If they started on
Yeah.
their own, I get that. Yeah. That's
yeah,
fine.
Okay, no problem.
I've actually deleted that feature from my online store because
Yeah, yours is removed.
we already know where the where the person passed away, because we took that information over the phone. So
Mhm.
that's not even a question we ask in our store, if it,
Okay.
if it helps for anyone.
So
Yeah, you can have us
remove that?
disable the question. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
only reason that can work is if you don't charge any specific removal fees. So we do have customers that do not charge if someone's getting picked up from a residence versus medical examiner, et cetera, or they're okay invoicing for those fees later. So that is a workaround temporarily. If you want us to disable that, we can do that.
Okay.
But again, it's not going to charge any mileage fees or anything like that. So that's just
Okay.
something to consider, but we will definitely bring that up to development. I just know it's a coding thing, and every time we have a coding thing, usually they're not able to jump on that right away. So I just don't want to give a false hope that you'll see an update in a week.
Sure. Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another item I had that I wanted to address with you, we kind of touched on this earlier, but say I go in and I set up 5 different forms to send to a customer to fill out and sign, and I send it to their private email address, and then they call back and say, the computer's not working, can you send it to my work address? I can't do that. I have to go back and recreate all 5 forms. That would be nice if it would be something we could make that possible to do without having to redo everything.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see the value in that, especially when
Yeah.
sending multiple forms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something we'll also check with our team on and see if that's something that's in the works. And see if we can get an update on when that might be an option.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, if the email bounces, it's easy, you
Yeah.
can change it. But if the
Yeah.
email
Right.
didn't bounce, then you basically have to start over at 0.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is an
Especially if you've
example
taken
of,
time to edit
yeah.
your forms, that can be tedious. So yeah, for sure. We'll definitely bring that up to
Mhm.
development.
Yeah, this is an example of something I was looking for earlier when you can
Mhm.
edit the email address because it wasn't sent. But
It
yeah, in
wasn't
that
sent, yeah.
specific scenario that you're talking about, when you've already sent them and then you need to change to a different email address.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we're at time, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but this has been really great. Are there any last questions that anybody has? Before we go? Okay. Well, thank you for attending and for your participation. If you
Mhm.
ever need anything, you can reach us, Andrea and I, at success@partingpro.com. That's our general email where you can reach out to us and ask questions. And please feel free and use that as needed. If you've got some things we understand just take a little bit more conversation and troubleshooting than being able to reach out to support and get something. So if you ever need to have a conversation, or just go over some edits in your dashboard, please let us know and we'd be happy to do that with you.